Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Megan, and for the past few years I've been making vlogs about working in aviation, working in yachting, travel videography, cinematic videos, anything along those lines. So for the past 4 years I've worked as a flight attendant for one of the major US airlines. I've learned so much from working in the industry, and it's actually really interesting. So today I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that and give you some secrets that only flight attendants and pilots know. And hopefully this will give you some advice for your next trip. So number one, if you've had any relatives that worked in aviation, flight attendants, pilots, you know that when you come on board as a standby passenger, it's courtesy to bring snacks, candy, cookies, goodie bags, anything like that. It goes a long way. So as a revenue passenger, if you're paying for a seat and you're in economy or business and you want to get upgraded to first class, or you want to get some free snacks, free drinks, or you just want to be nice to your flight attendants, I highly recommend you bring snacks on board. It's only going to cost you an extra like $2 to $3, and it goes a really long way. Just bring like a bag of Hershey Kisses, a bag of Reese's, some candy bars. You can look up the specific airplane that you're flying and see exactly how many pilots and flight attendants are on there. For example, today I flew an Airbus 320, which means there's 4 flight attendants and 2 pilots. So one of our revenue passengers, we talked to him after. His mom was a flight attendant for United for 52 years, so he knows the industry. But he paid for the seat today for him, his wife, and his 2 children. And they brought us a bunch of candy, snacks, which was really nice, and it goes a long way. So during service, we offered him free drinks, we gave him water, and we also offered to upgrade them. It didn't cost him much, you know, he just stopped by the dollar store, probably picked up some candy for us and brought it in his bag, and it went a really long way. So if you do want to get upgraded or you want to get a free drink, highly recommend bringing some snacks for your flight attendants. It works every single time. Every flight I've been on, without hesitation, if someone brings us food, we're like, all right, what are we going to give him? Let's give him water. And during service, we're like, all right, let's hook him up. So it really goes a long way. And even if you're paying for a seat, if you do that, you're going to get some free stuff, maybe get upgraded to first class, maybe get a free bottle of wine or beer. So it really goes a long way. So the next tip or secret that a lot of people don't know, which is actually really interesting, a lot of times when you're traveling, you know, you're traveling for a bachelor party, or you're going to a wedding, or you're going on vacation, and you're with your friends in the airport, you arrive early, you drink a little bit at the airport, you get a drink, you get brunch, you get a mimosa. So you show up to the gate, you've already had a drink or two, then you get on the plane. The second that the plane starts to take off, the altitude in the cabin gets set to 7,000 feet. That's industry standard for every airplane. So in the cabin, it's 7,000 feet. And so you're going from, well, say you're leaving from Florida, you're going from sea level to 7,000 feet in a second. So when the plane automatically jumps to 7,000 feet, your body has a hard time adjusting. And then you're up in the air, we start doing service, you've already had 2 drinks, you get another drink. When you have that drink on the plane, it acts as 2 drinks. So say you get a double margarita or a double vodka soda. That's 2 doubles. So you've already had 2 drinks in the plane and then 4 on the airplane. You're gonna get drunk way quicker on the plane. If you notice you have 1 glass of wine on the plane, it feels like you've had a whole bottle. So keep that in mind when you're flying, and it'll save you some money too. So another really interesting fact, if you've noticed, all airlines typically request that you open the window shades at the exit row, but a lot of airlines are starting to request that every passenger opens the window shade throughout the whole plane for takeoff, taxi, and landing. And it's very interesting, the reason for that. So the pilots are up in the front of the plane, they can see forward. The flight attendants are in their jump seats. Once they've done their compliance areas, checked for all the safety issues, make sure everyone's in their seat with their seatbelt fastened, they're in their jump seats. So on an A320, which I was flying today, there's 2 captains, there's 2 flight attendants in the front, all the passengers, and 2 flight attendants in the back. In the front and the back, all we have is a window about this big. You can barely see to either side because it's a very thick window pane. So you can barely see out the window. It's basically just a straight shot to see like what time of day it is, where we are, if we're close to landing. You can't really see, you can't see the exit row, you can't see anything like that. You can't see the wing, the engine. So the people with the best view on the plane are actually the passengers. And the reason that we tell them to open the window shades when we're landing and when we're taking off is because if anything were to happen to the engine, like a bird strike, the engine caught on fire, there's another plane on the runway or something, the first person that's going to see it is going to be the passenger that's sitting at the exit row with a really good view of the window and the engine. So it's really important that the passengers are able to see that and alert us if something happens so that we can act on it sooner. So I really think that's an interesting way to look at it. You know, a lot of times you're on the plane and you become complacent and you're just like, oh, I gotta get to where I'm going, but you forget you're in a huge metal tube in the air with two engines, and really anything could happen. So it's really important to keep those safety issues in mind. And yeah, just next time the flight attendant asks you to open the window shade for landing, even though it's bright out, just remember they're doing it for everyone's safety on board, and just always be alert when you're landing and when you're taking off. So you definitely have a responsibility as a passenger just as much as we do as a flight attendant. Working in aviation for the past 4 years, I've witnessed many airplane cleanings. I do a lot of turns, which means you fly somewhere and then you come back, and in between the turns, right when the passengers get off, the cleaning crew from that airport comes on board, they clean the plane, then they get off. Typically they only have 5 to 10 minutes to clean the whole plane, and it can be anywhere from 2 to 10 cleaners. It depends how big the plane is. I've seen how they clean. They have a vacuum, someone does a bathroom, someone's checking for the trash in the back of the seats, and they're moving super quick. They have a very limited amount of time, because when the gate agents push the plane, they're supposed to push it at a specific time, and the delay is going to fall on someone. If the plane's delayed, they get to blame it on anyone but themselves. Not in a bad way, but it could be cleaners, it could be flight attendants being late, it could be pilots late, it could be we're waiting on passengers. There's a reason for the delay. We have a specific amount of time to do our checks, to do everything, to get ice, to do our pre-flight checks, to get the plane ready for boarding, open all the window shades, open all the air vents, get the cabin cooled down. The pilots have a specific amount of time to do their checks and check the engines, make sure everything's good, do a walk around, the cleaners, and catering. So all that needs to happen within like 10 minutes of the passenger seaplaning. So the cleaners are going super quick. And that leads into my next two things. So on the plane, I've seen a lot of people with infants or with children or even themselves who use the tray table and they're eating directly off it, or they're sleeping on it, and I see like their mouth open on the tray table or their eye on the tray table, and then their kids are like eating food off the tray table. I've seen passengers change diapers on the tray table. Like, there's so much that's happening on the tray table, and the cleaners are 100% not cleaning every single tray table. There's absolutely no way that they're able to clean every single 200 tray tables in 5 minutes. There's absolutely no way. I rarely at any airport see them open the tray table and clean it. So just keep that in mind. Maybe bring a little wipe with you, a standing wipe, and clean the tray table yourself when you get on the plane, or just try to refrain from putting your face on it, sleeping on it, changing your baby on it, eating off of it, letting your kids sleep on it. Just remember that rarely gets cleaned. Another thing that rarely gets cleaned is the toilet seat. After witnessing countless flights, especially to specific countries in the Caribbean and South America, I've seen what happens in the bathrooms and around the bathrooms, and it's absolutely disgusting. Just the lack of cleanliness in the bathroom is so gross. I can't even eat within like 10 feet of the bathroom because I get so grossed out. So just keep that in mind when you're using the airplane bathroom. Although the cleaners do come on and organize the bathroom, they're not necessarily deep cleaning the bathroom. So there's a lot of traffic in the bathroom. Make sure if you're gonna sit on the toilet, put a toilet seat cover down, because the airplane bathroom is probably one of the most disgusting places in the whole plane. So just keep that in mind for sure. Okay, so when the pilots want to come out to use the bathroom, there was an incident that happened in Asia a while ago where there was a pilot who went to use the bathroom and the other one locked him out and crashed the plane. So to prevent that from happening ever again, there's a rule in the United States that there has to be 2 people in the flight deck at all times. So every airline has their own way of getting into the flight deck, but regular revenue passengers aren't able to get in. There is a safety precaution before entering the flight deck, and then when you're in there has to be at least 2 people in there. So if there's a jump seating pilot, a flight attendant doesn't have to come in, but there always has to be at least 2 people in there at all times, which is very interesting. So when you get on a plane, say you're going from like Connecticut to Latrobe, Pennsylvania, there's probably not many people going on that flight. It's going to be super open. So say there's 200 seats and only 40 people are on the flight. It's very important especially on flights when there's only 40 people, that you actually remain in your seat, because weight imbalance is a real thing. So the pilots estimate how much weight is in each section of the plane. That determines the speed and the angle at which they take off. Before the plane takes off, they see where everyone is seated and they put people in specific seats because of weight imbalance. And then underneath, the cargo and the bags also account for weight. So say they have a ton of bags in the back or in the front, and then they have a ton of people to balance it out in the back. And then all the people are in the back, the 40 people are in the back, and they all move up because they want to be closer to the front. Then all the weight is distributed in the front, and that's going to mess up the pilot's calculations for taking off. So it's actually really interesting. Even though the flight attendants may say like, oh, don't move your seat, even though it looks like the plane is empty, it's actually really important that you stay in your seat because of weight imbalance issues, and it could cause something bad to happen upon takeoff or landing. So just keep that in mind. And last but not least, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but never, ever, ever drink the water on a plane. So the FAA has some regulations in place for how often the water has to be cleaned out, the water tanks. And typically you're getting hot water on the plane, hot water for tea or coffee or soup. But my best recommendation to you is to never, ever, ever drink coffee, hot water, soup, tea, any water that comes from the plane. Never drink that. It's not very regulated on how often it's cleaned, and although we're going through a lot of water a day, the bacteria builds up in the water tank, and it's not cleaned as regularly as it should be. And that goes for every airplane, Boeing, Airbus, every airplane you're gonna fly on. Just make sure you refrain from drinking coffee or tea. Just wait till you land, get some Dunkin' or Starbucks. That's my best recommendation. I hope you enjoyed these little tips from a flight attendant about flying, and I hope you remember it on your next trip going forward. Safe travels.